Hey folks, welcome to yet another conversation on Business Redefined, your weekly most comprehensive look at the world of business, finance, and economics. In this edition, we are focusing on human capital, the labor market, evolving trends, and emerging issues. And we're privileged to have a company which has been in the game for 20 years and shaping up across the region, not just in one country, but a footprint starting from all the way from Mauritius, coming to the east where we are. And we're privileged to have the group CEO, Mr. Patrick Mbonye, Q-Sourcing Servtec Group. I had to get that right. Welcome on set, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
Maybe for those of us who might not be familiar, tell us about your company, your history, and why 20 years is important for you.
So Q-Sourcing 20 years, as you mentioned, we focus on the people or the person as a resource in the business arena. As you remember, there is a lot of talk about people, price, product, and place.
Yeah.
So we focus on the person. How does this person leverage off the other three, now technology, and derive the best result for the enterprise, for the organization, and if it's for profit, yes, bottom line. If it's not for profit, objective. So 20 years is a significant milestone for us because we've spread into the 5 countries, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and South Sudan. We also have 8 brands across those countries. The most notable ones are one that is recently acquired. It's a gig worker platform where we look at the typical gig operations, not the long-term project operations. We also have another which is focused on oil and gas, which is extractives basically, and the others look at how do we extract value from what we call talent in the business arena.
I see. And as you talk about extraction of value when you're dealing with talent, many HR platforms out here will basically recruit for an entity. I understand that you go way beyond that.
Yes.
Help us understand that.
So the journey of a resource in your business, if you're a business owner or in your organization, starts when you get them on board. Because you have a need and you define that need by the skills that particular resource should have.
Yeah.
When the person comes in, the need aligned to the resource is what we call talent. But when the person comes on board, now we need to align on what is it that are your expectations. Those expectations are broken down in terms of indicators of progress. Once you understand that between you, the business owner or the enterprise owner, and the resource, that's the start of the journey.
Yeah.
Is this person trained in those areas? Because you may come in with the technical abilities. However, you have to align with the objectives of the business. So that's a learning process. And typically, you hear probation.
Yes.
That's why it's probation, because you're still learning. As at the end of probation, we expect that you're now on board. The next stage of the journey is how do you reward? I'm giving you value as an individual, and you're getting the value, and how are you compensating me? The compensation is aligned to what the business feels they're getting from you. So a lot of times there's misalignment. Some individuals feel underutilized. Yeah. Some feel they're doing more than they're paid for. Some businesses feel we're paying too much, or we're paying a person who we don't feel is satisfying us. So that alignment is always very important. So what we do in the ecosystem we have put together in our business model is that we ensure that the business is very clear on the objectives and how they will reward value. We also then ensure that the resource that comes into the business is very clear on how that value will be compensated. And so our business model is to make sure that the client who is paying us for the work done or the value derived from the individuals who have been placed there. Typically, businesses measure their value from the bottom line.
Correct.
Right? If Julius joining the team increases my margins by particular percentage X, then I can pay him even more.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of language we like to discuss with our clients. However, the individuals who are placed there should also be explained to that this is what you're bringing to the business.
Correct.
So it's not just a salary conversation, it's a compensation conversation. And compensation can be salary plus. And those are, if I could highlight the best case scenarios, is where the client has paid us on the basis of a revenue share. If there's been this increment,
Yeah.
I earn off that increment. And I also cascade it down to the individual's reward. And those are usually happy relationships, yes.
Interesting alignment there, Patrick. And as you talk about alignment between talent, skill, and workflow within the various premises, speak to us about productivity managed service programs.
So productivity managed services programs is around the individual, the tools the individual is going to be using, the equipment that is available for the individual, and the capital you're deploying.
Yeah.
Those combined to deploy to a project objective or a project. And why we call it that they're managed services is the suppliers of all those attributes are part of the costing for that service. The client does not want to know that detail. What the client wants is the output.
Yeah.
Have you achieved the objective we agreed to? Yes or no? To what level? To standard, level of quality? If there's any compensation for better quality, if there's a tired relationship, that's what is aligned, and you shake hands on that basis. So the three aspects of it is we resource the project. Two, we ensure that the tools that are deployed, including technology, will give us the best result.
Yeah.
And three, the reports should be specific to those indicators that measure the journey to the output and the goal.
When you talk about the sort of approach you have in terms of a revenue share as the optimal route, what happens in an environment? Say I'm dealing with an agricultural entity. I have helped them recruit 100 staff.
Yes.
I'm being paid per tonnage in one way or the other. Then the weather is just bad. Things entirely out of our control as either staff or you as the company who recruited.
Yeah.
How is that handled from a compensation?
So in the conversations prior to beginning an engagement, we classify the risks. There is risks that can be insurable risk, and then there's the uninsurable risk, which is to a great extent human factor, where it's the quality of resource that you deploy or the amount of work that they will do within a specific period of time. That is loaded on our compensation. However, those what we call acts of God are incorporated as a separate provision. So the measurement of output or performance is specific to those periods of time when those acts of God are not at play.
Yeah.
Those where acts of God are at play, those are insured away, so that you specifically focus on where your input as a partner in the business will derive highest performance. So it's very important during the conversations with the client that those risks are clearly spelled out. And that's why we cannot promise output or promise performance, contract performance, without going through the details.
Okay.
And where that detail is clearly articulated with the clients, then you have all those catered for, taken care of, yes.
Patrick, over the last 20 years, what would you say has been your measurable impact in the business landscape?
Three things. One is when we are completing a project and a multinational is recognizing your performance to the level of other parts of the world, international, and recognizing you as being able to deliver to that standard. That has been something that has kept us going. That's number one. Number two is the recognition of the importance of learning, continuous learning.
Yes.
Putting all our resources, all our teams on a learning curve with an objective of meeting international standards. Julius, it's very personal when you have an individual in Kenya being measured at the same level as someone in Germany,
Yeah.
operating a particular machinery or delivering a particular activity, and they say, no, they're not to the same level. Why? They're both human beings. What is it that makes one perform at a lower level? So
Yeah.
raising the caliber of the Kenyan talent to that of the German or any other international standard is something that we've seen as a critical foundation to our future. And last but not least is technology. Over the 20 years, we've built a lot of information on performance. In Tanzania, in this particular environment, this is the kind of output that we've been able to derive. In Rwanda, this is what we've been able to see. In Uganda, in South Sudan, in Kenya, in Mount Kenya area, in Nyanza region, in Western. How does that all come together to show us what do we need to put in place to ensure that Africans are part of the African dream?
Okay. At the start, you mentioned that you have a product which focuses on the gig segment of the labor market. And I'm very curious about it because, one, unlike the older segments of the labor market, they are more fluid.
Yeah.
They are more contractual in nature.
Yeah.
How is that shaping up?
It's been a journey. Of course, we've learned from our 20 years that one, the person has to have the skill, but you've got to be able to measure that skill to a level of standard that the paying customer understands what you're talking about. That's why we say international standard, because international standard means that someone who is out of the US, out of China or Europe is not going to question that, but is this to East Africa, Africa, or what standard is it? So we measure at that standard. So anyone coming onto the platform has got to go through that assessment. You may have the skill, self-taught, or gone through college, but we need to measure you.
Yeah.
So once you meet that, then we come on. The second is the service, quality of service you're going to offer. Yes, you have the skill, you're skilled in delivering that service. However, the quality of performance as measured by the paying customer. Aligning that is also something that we've had to learn from our 20 years.
Yeah.
And we're now bringing it to the gig economy. Because the difference between the gig economy and our typical business is the time.
Yes.
It's a gig. I want to come in 1 hour, or I want to come in just for that particular assignment or that activity. We agree on the quality, we agree on the number of hours or on the actual output, and then you pay me. So
Yes.
the third bit is measurement of performance. And what is it that I'm paying for? How much am I paying for it? And am I paying to standard market rate? And once those three are aligned and you can ensure that it's done consistently
Yes.
on our platform, that's our goal.
Final point from you, Patrick, is it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
As you look ahead, first of all, as you look back, what are the key milestones? And as you look ahead, what are the priority areas?
As I look back, the key milestones have been that all through the journey, I'm an economic analyst by profession, by training. And all through the journey, we've adjusted our service offerings based on the requests of the clients. So that's been our journey on the kind of services we've come through. The bigger clients, from their requests, we go back, do some analytics, and come back with a solution. Looking forward, we've got to look at these trends.
Yeah.
And one, the talent that we bring on board should have the foundation that we've learned through the years. This is the best foundational skills. But on top of that foundation is what are we adding? So we have introduced a learning center within the group that every single person that comes into the company, comes into the group, will have to go through some modules. Before being deployed on any project, you'll also have to go through modules that align you to the objectives of that particular project or assignment, so that we minimize the variance between expectation of client and actual delivery. The third, which is critical, is leveraging of technology. Yeah. All these things of AI, machine learning. As I said before, we have the benefit of 20 years and counting, and there's a lot of information that we have where we failed, where we had significant challenge, why, and where we succeeded. Yeah. What is it that we can pick from there that we can now introduce into how we do business in the future? So that's what we're looking at in the future, and we're very happy with the progress, because we feel that as East Africa grows, it's more integrated at the business level. Don't know about the political level, but at the business level, it's very integrated, yes. Right? So we want to see how to leverage off our resources as people in Africa. How do we first benefit from the growth in East Africa, but second, the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. The rest of the world maybe not, because we still have a lot to do in Africa. Yeah. So we can benefit from the growth of Africa as a continent.
And that is Mr. Patrick Mbonye, Group CEO, Q-Sourcing Servtec, speaking to us about 20 years in the business, how the evolution has been, some revenue perspective, and what is likely to shape the years ahead. On the other side of this conversation, we shall be speaking to the country manager on a lot more nuanced details in the Kenyan business landscape. Stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome back to this conversation on Business Redefined, where we are focusing on human capital, the labor market, and we're dealing with an enterprise which has been in the game for 20 years. Q-Sourcing Servtec. In the first part of this conversation, we spoke to the group CEO, Mr. Patrick Mbonye, with a more of a review perspective on how the 20-year journey has been. We now want to speak to Mr. Eric Omondi, the country manager for the Kenya business, who will also give us some light into how the scaling of the business has been, what are some of the trends we are seeing. Eric, karibu sana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Karibu sana. And let's start from the fact that it started 20 years ago.
Yes.
One jurisdiction, scaled across the region right now. How has that journey been?
Thank you, Julian. I think the journey has been quite interesting, and looking at Q-Sourcing Servtec Group and the solutions that we offer and the value that we add to the market. I would say that what we have seen over the years, moving from one country, growing across the East African region, interacting with different clients, and of course starting from just one service line, and the journey with the clients that trust us and the value that we bring. So I would say that from where we sit, we think as Q-Sourcing Servtec Group, and the solutions and the value that we add has basically enabled us to grow, not just from where it started, but of course to where we are now, and of course working with different cadres, different market segments, different clients, and of course with the hope of continuing to grow even further. Of course, working with different levels of people across the East African region.
All right.
Yeah.
And Kenya is the hub of the region, quite dynamic. What are some of the
Yes.
trends you are seeing shaping the business landscape in this country?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see, maybe 2 or 3 things that I can talk about. Of course, the evolution and the market dynamics that keep on changing. But of course, the space where we operate in, and especially narrowing down to Kenya, specifically, the continual change of, the regulations, for example, in the market. The labor market is diverse. Yeah. And we more often than not work with the blue-collar workers, the people that we call the general workers. And a lot of dynamics keep on changing in terms of, the expectations from them, in terms of the regulations from, the market, the government, and those dynamics keep on changing, and they shape how we operate, they shape how we work, and they also basically shape how we, interact not only with our internal customers who are our staff, but also our clients and our business partners that we keep on working with now and into the future.
What would you say has been the role and impact of QSS when it comes to employment creation?
I think two things. I would say two things. One, of course, being in a position to offer employment opportunities. If you look at Kenya, the market is very narrow, the employment market,
Yeah.
and a lot of our people, a lot of our young people, we like calling them the Gen Zs, being churned out every year, from our universities and from our technical institutions, and so. Lack of employment thereof is something that is quite significant. So Q-Sourcing comes in to bridge that gap and, offer employment opportunities where, you can come in from the very lowest level, and of course you have that opportunity with the value that you add to, grow over time and basically contribute to the market.
Yeah.
And then of course number two, other than now the internal staff that we talk about or that we employ, of course also working with the different business partners, you realize that initially people talked about workforce management, which is a buzzword, and everybody talks about it, where you're just giving people and then what you do with them. But we are at a position where, as Q-Sourcing, we are able to narrow down to the very specifics that the CEO was talking about earlier around in terms of productivity managed services programs, where again what we do is you don't have to have 20 or 30 or 50 people. You can have 100, you can have scale down to 20 or to 50, you can scale up. And so having that employment opportunity or providing that to the Kenyan people, I think is something that Q-Sourcing is proud of.
Yes. If there's someone in a position of leadership who's
Yes.
watching this conversation and they're wondering, I'm struggling with organizational performance.
Yes.
Where do I start? What would be your thoughts and advice in that note?
Good question, and that is, I think that is something that we come across all the time, in our conversations with our different business partners. Struggles with people management, of course, also struggling with performances. So it's as simple as, what do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
As an organization or as a business, what is your business? What do you want to achieve? What is it that you set out, every morning when you're having your boardroom conversations with your teams? What is your objective? That is where to begin. And then, of course, you ask yourself very simple questions, like, if I want to go to point A, how do I navigate and get to point A? In simple terms, do I have the right person with the right skills? And when I have the right person with the right skills in the organization, are they on the right roles?
Yeah.
Because more often than not, what we have realized is we have people that are multi-talented, but they are either in the wrong roles or even in the wrong organization. So that is, I think, the first point to start from. Yeah.
Eric, final question. If I'm out there and I'm watching this,
Yes.
why should QSS be top of mind for my human resourcing needs?
Thank you so much. Two aspects. First of all, from an individual or an employee perspective, we are an organization that focuses on people. And, we believe that our people basically are our future. So you joining QSSG or Q-Sourcing Servtec Kenya, for that matter, to work with us and for us, basically gives you a platform. Number one, I've talked about learning and development, or learning and growth. So you have an opportunity to grow. We have had scenarios where people have joined us, from the lowest level, called the general workers, or what we normally call in Kenya as casuals. And over the years, have grown.
Yeah.
With those opportunities and become, even managers. Currently, we have even examples that we have in our organization. So the environment is there, the support, the structure is clearly and well defined. The expectations are things that you can be able to talk about and discuss even with the leadership. However, from a partner perspective, a business partner perspective, you can be sure that you are talking to an organization that is, focused on compliance, whether it's compliance with regulations, the labor laws and all that kind of stuff. You can be sure that you will be talking or dealing with a business partner that has your interest at heart, not coming to you as a service provider, but as a business partner that wants to grow with you, always working with you throughout the journey to ensure that, the objectives that you have are met at the end of the day. So if you are that person and you're looking at me out there, yes, QSSG is here to serve you.
Patrick Mbonye and Eric Omondi, two gentlemen at the top of Q-Sourcing Servtec, who have walked us through the human capital landscape in terms of the labor market dynamics, emerging trends, whether it is tech, and how sourcing is done to ensure that productivity is optimized as they celebrate 20 years of this company across the entire region. And we certainly join them in celebrating that moment. We will continue focusing on questions of the labor market and human market so that we can all appreciate how we can play a bigger role in the productivity of the business landscape and overall how that builds into the larger economy. So keep it business redefined.